In the first shots we see two girls sitting by a waterfall. Soon they pass through the forest and return to their little village, which is in the middle of nowhere. The local women do household chores and sing old-timey songs. In addition to the adult women, their daughters live here. Sela looks out at the forest. An image of their patron is scratched into the trees. In the evening the shepherd and his wives and daughters gathered around the table. After supper, the shepherd began to choose with whom he would spend tonight. The woman of the choice was ready to accept the honor. Before going to bed, the women prayed and thanked the shepherd for his grace and love. Then everyone went to bed. In the morning, the shepherd read his sermons, while the women dressed in white dresses, listened to his words with sacred awe. Each of these women had endured many trials in life and hoped that the shepherd would give them truth and peace. Tears welled up in Sela's eyes. The shepherd who had made these women sisters and given them daughters was performing a special ritual. It was like a collective madness. Later, Sela asked Tamar to leave her. The girl walked with the shepherd through the woods, telling him that she admired his sermons. The shepherd in turn admired Sela's hair, which was as beautiful as her mother's. Sela asked the shepherd to tell about the first time he met her mother, but the man avoided answering. Meanwhile, Eloise spoke admiringly of how the shepherd had brought meaning back into her life. When he hugged her, it was God's grace. Sela, who for now is a daughter and not a wife, was angry about it. Eloise has only recently been here, but she has already earned the honor of being a shepherd's wife. Sela was besought by one of the older women, who are called mothers here. The woman told her to take the rest of the food to the hut, and Sela had to obey. She walked through the gloomy forest, seeing hidden signs everywhere. The wives are placed in the hut each month to wait out the women's days. This is called repentance, which helps the women purify themselves. It is a punishment for Eve's sin. Sarah tells Sela that when she becomes an adult, the shepherd will change his attitude toward her. Also Sarah is ridiculed by the piety of the girl, who is a replica of her late mother. Sela does not like that a woman who is unclean is touching her. In the evening, the daughters ask the sisters and mothers to tell stories. But they could not do so, for only the shepherd has the right to tell stories. At night Sela could not sleep and saw through the window one of the wives enter the shepherd's hut to spend the night with him. The next day Sela lay on the ground, thinking about it. Meanwhile, the wives were washing the shepherd, reminding that soon their flock would have lambs again. The women must not defile the newborn lambs with filth, so they bathed. The honor of performing their sacred duty fell to Sela, though she was still too inexperienced to do so. The older women instructed her. Sela stayed with the flock in the mountain pasture and dozed on the grass. When she awoke, she saw that the newborn lamb was not moving. At the same time, Sela realized that she had become a grown woman. It made her scream. Sela didn't tell anyone about it, using cotton wool. At night she screamed again. Later one of the sisters asked what had happened to the lambs. Sela confessed that a wild dog had attacked the lamb. When the wives found out what had happened, they took Sela to church. However, instead of punishing her, the shepherd forgave her. Sela feels guilty, believing that it was because she was unclean while shepherding the flock. In the following shots, we see Sela sitting down in front of the aggressive ram, not at all afraid of him. The shepherd is watching. It was another sleepless night for Sela. She heard police cars pull up to the house. Then she watched through the window as the officer told the shepherd that they would have to leave the place within a few days. The next day the shepherd announced to his beloved flock that they must all leave together, or else those living in sinful world would invade and separate them all. The women could not hold back their tears. The shepherd fell to the ground and the flock surrounded him. The man said they would find a new home. The women instantly cheered and began to carry the shepherd in their arms. Later he saw Sela away from everyone. She was sad that they would not be able to come back here again. The shepherd said he was relying on Sela, as she is pure in her faith like no other. Soon the shepherd led his beloved flock to a new place. They walked all day, and at night they set up camp. The shepherd read prayers by the fire, saying that this journey would open up new possibilities for them. Sarah sat apart from the others. During the night, Sela woke up suddenly, seeing images of girls in the water and the shepherd with a sacrificial lamb. In the morning, the flock continued on their way. They passed by an abandoned house. Sela and the sisters decided to explore it, and the shepherd did not like it. They were not allowed to spend the night here, for this abandoned house holds the memory of lost souls. When darkness fell, the women camped again and sang songs of praise to the shepherd. Sela could not sleep for a long time and returned to that very house. A picture of the landscape caught her attention. It was as if it reminded her of something. Sela was frightened when she saw the sister beside her. She showed her the bruises the shepherd had left. Sela was horrified by this. During the day, she had been throwing up a lot. Sarah noticed this. Sela still told no one that she was unclean, but soon the sisters and wives revealed her secret. Now Sela and Sarah were walking together behind, for they were both unclean. The mothers look with envy at the shepherd who gives his love to the younger women. He once looked at them the same way. Sarah tells Sela that the shepherd thinks she is the most worthless of wives. Sarah remembers Sela's mother well. She was very beautiful, they were among the first to join the flock. The shepherd's attention was like the sun to them. But then everything changed. When Sela's mother gave birth to the daughter, the woman developed an infection. However, the shepherd said it was a test of her faith and would not allow her to be taken to the hospital. Sela imagined herself riding in a car like a normal teenager and watching the flock from the sidelines. But in reality, she herself is part of the flock. This realization made her cry. All evening she was not herself. One of the women, Adrielle, was pregnant, about to go into labor. Now Sela tried to stay close to Sarah, because she felt safer with her. Sarah told how she used to like to go into the woods at night, to the waterfall, and feel the freedom. But she never decided to leave the flock because she was afraid to go back to the outside world. In the morning the flock set out again. Many women condemned Sela for spending a lot of time with the exiled wife. The shepherd also told the girl that Sarah was worthless. Adrielle's water broke. She did not want to give birth in this place, where there were no suitable conditions, but the other wives began to reassure her, assuring her that everything would be fine. Listening to Adrielle's cries, the sisters could not hold back tears. Toward nightfall a boy was born, but Adrielle passed away. Her daughter cried and would not leave her side, but the shepherd was adamant. He saw nothing wrong with what had happened. Sarah thinks this is entirely the shepherd's fault. For the first time, she called the shepherd by his real name, Michael. Seeing Adrielle on her last journey, the sisters sang a ritual song and tried not to despair. Sela stayed by the fire for a long time, and her outlook began to change. Sarah, with the newborn baby boy in her arms, said she intended to leave the flock to save the baby. The shepherd wanted to abandon him, for there must be only one ram in the flock. In parting, Sarah asked Sela to help the sisters and wives, as she was the strongest of them all. The women were already exhausted and wanted to stop. One of the wives asked how much longer they were going to walk. For this, the shepherd punished her in front of everyone, calling her worthless and pathetic. The woman could not stop crying. Later, Sela told the woman that the shepherd should not have done that to her. Finally, their journey came to an end. The shepherd told his flock that as a reward for their faith, he was giving them paradise on earth. It was a beautiful mountain lake. The shepherd performed the ritual in the water to cleanse the souls of the women from their sins. Almost every one of them considered it a great honor. However, Sela no longer felt the same sacred awe as she did before. When she was immersed in the water, she saw mysterious visions again. Around her were other women in white dresses. In the evening at the fire, Tamar offered one of the wives something to eat, but she refused, saying that they were fasting. Tomorrow the wives are to be reborn. At night the shepherd came to Sela and asked her to go with him. When they were alone in the tent, the shepherd told her to undo her braids. He kept repeating to Sela that she was as beautiful as her mother. In the end, Sela managed to avoid the worst of it. After wishing her a good night, the shepherd left. Again and again, she was haunted by ominous visions in which the daughters and wives make retribution on the shepherd. The next day, Sela decided to tell the others a story, ignoring the fact that normally only the shepherd would do that. She told the sisters and wives about Sarah, the unruly woman who had learned to be free. Soon the sisters discovered that the wives had disappeared. The shepherd said that a miracle had happened. The holy waters had taken all the wives. The shepherd also stated that he must bear this burden so that the daughters might one day become wives. The girls were terrified. The shepherd asked Sela to come to him so that he could bestow his grace on her. But the girl declared that she did not need his grace. She was slapped in the face for this insolence and responded to the shepherd in the same way. In the next scene we see a police car stopped by the lake. On the shore, the officers saw many bodies. And in the woods, the police found the shepherd with no signs of life, over whom his daughters committed retribution. Now the girls are free. Standing at the waterfall, they accepted their new life.